The cry cut through rain like a blade, thin and muffled, and Maya Hart said, "Hold on, I hear you." Wind shoved cold needles under her collar as she ran behind the shuttered lumberyard. Lightning ripped a white seam across the sky. The smell of wet cedar and iron told the rest of the story before her headlamp found it. An adult barn owl twisted in a rusted snare, wings trembling hard. Maya Hart said, "Easy, sweetheart, I've got you." The trap's steel teeth were slick with rain, and a dark shine she refused to name. Thunder rolled low, too close. The pallet stacks leaned like crooked towers, and the ground sucked at her boots. "Maya Hart," said Evan, "radio check, I need bolt cutters and vet tape now." Static hissed. Then Evan Cole said, 10 minutes out, don't move it if you can help it." The owl clacked its beak and threw a weak wing, and the strap of her kit bag bit her shoulder. Maya Hart said, "I won't lose you tonight." A gust slapped her light and showed a feather matted to wood like a pinned note. Somewhere a gate chain rattled as the storm pushed on the fence. Maya Hart said, "Who set this here?" and swallowed the answer as another cry came, smaller, a breaking glass sound. The storm pressed her down as if the sky wanted the secret kept, and Maya Hart said, "You're caught, not broken, I need to see." She slipped the headlamp lower and found where the wire bit into feather and skin. The owl hissed like torn air and jerked, and she flinched but held. Maya Hart said, "Hurts, I know, I know." The pallets creaked as rain filled their seams, and a gutter spilled a sheet beside her. Evan Cole said, 8 minutes, watch for hypothermia." She cupped the bird with the jacket's dry inside, leaving the injured leg visible. Maya Hart said, "Stay with me, beautiful hunter." A siren moaned far off, then faded behind the rain's drumming. She wedged a pry bar under the snare's frame and tested its give. The metal answered with a mean little laugh of slip and snap. Maya Hart said, "Did someone bait you and saw a smear of cheap meat on a nail?" The word illegal formed in her mouth and tasted like copper. She breathed once, slow, then twice. Maya Hart said, "You're not dying here." She slid the pry bar again, and the wire gave a bitter groan, and the owl lashed a wing that slapped her cheek. Maya Hart said, "Okay, you fight, that's good." She tasted rain and dust, and a thin thread of blood. The headlamp halo shook as her hands learned the trap's language. Evan Cole said, "Do not cut unless you can stabilize first." Her kit offered gauze, tape, and a folded thermal, but not time. Maya Hart said, "I hear you, but the storm is stealing heat." She braced the frame with a boot and pressed a loop flat with pliers. The owl panted, beak open like a tiny furnace that made no warmth. Maya Hart said, "Look at me, stay with me," and the bird's eye caught the light. Thunder walked closer, counting in the bones of the yard. The pallet stack shifted a wooden sigh and let go a topboard. It fell and shattered into wet shards beside her knee. Maya Hart said, "Move now or move never." The culvert beyond the fence roared like a freight train and shoved a brown river under the yard. Maya Hart said, rising water, "We're on a clock." She checked the gate and found the chain welded with age and salt. Evan Cole said, "Wait for bolt cutters, 2 minutes." The owl sagged under the jacket, and the tremor in its chest became a metronome. Maya Hart said, "You hear that?" to no one, and memory answered with a ghost. Jake Hart said, "Promise me you won't freeze again," and the past cracked like ice. She wiped rain from her mouth and squared her shoulders to the lock. The word trespass blinked on and off like a hazard light. Maya Hart said, "Law can chase me later." She set her small hacksaw to the chain and counted strokes. Sparks tried to live in the rain and died as soon as they were born. The culvert growled louder. Maya Hart said, "Stay awake, hunter." The saw bit through, and the chain fell with a drowned clatter, and she slipped inside the fence to better leverage the trap. "Maya Hart," said Evan, "I'm in, cutters or not." The owl's breathing thinned to a whisper that made her stomach lurch. She slid the pry bar once more and felt the hinge begin to cry. Evan Cole said 30 seconds, I'm at the lot. Thunder hammered the yard and turned the puddles into drumming hands. Maya Hart said, listen to me, you are not a body in the rain. She hooked the pliers deep, twisted, and held the snare's mouth open with all she had left. A feather lifted and spiraled away like a white moth. The owl blinked slow, then fast. Maya Hart said, that's it, breathe. The frame slipped and barked her knuckles, but the jaws stayed a finger wider. Evan Cole said, I see you, don't move. She did not breathe. Maya Hart said, on my count, we end this. The storm eased but left the yard raw, water dripping like a metronome. Maya Hart said, you're safe for now. The owl's wing sagged in her hands. Feather edges frayed like burned paper. Evan Cole said, we need to stabilize before transport. He crouched, face red from the sprint, cutters dangling loose. Maya Hart said, he's lighter than he should be. She slid gauze around the wound, fingers steady though her chest shook. Evan Cole said, we should call it in, let animal control take over. Her jaw set hard. Maya Hart said, no, they'll write it off as nuisance wildlife. The owl's talon brushed her wrist, not striking, just trembling. The sound made her remember Jake Hart saying, don't let another die in your arms. She swallowed, throat hot with the old echo. Maya Hart said, this one matters. Rainwater spilled from her hood to the ground like falling time. Evan Cole sighed and nodded, then we do it your way. Inside Evan's truck, the heater wheezed and steamed windows, a cocoon against the night. Maya Hart said, stay with me, Featherheart. The owl shifted weakly on her lap, eyes half shut. Evan Cole drove slow over rutted gravel, hands tight on the wheel. He said, if we're stopped, you know they'll fine us. Maya Hart said, then they can take it from my hands when they pry me open. The dashboard glow painted her face in red and green. She pressed a thermal blanket close around the owl, listening for shallow breaths. A wet feather clung to her sleeve like a reminder. Evan Cole muttered, this isn't about the bird alone, is it? She didn't answer, only stroked the owl's head gently. The truck rocked through a pothole, and the bird gave a faint hiss. Maya Hart said, that's right, fight me. She closed her eyes and whispered, I promise, Jake. They reached the safe house, an old ranger outpost leaning under moss and shadow. Evan Cole said, it's not a clinic. Maya Hart said, it's all we've got. She laid the owl on a wooden table scarred by years of field maps and lantern burns. The bird's chest fluttered shallow. She set gauze, antiseptic, and sutures in neat rows. Evan Cole said, you're pushing too hard, you'll break him. She shook her head, I'll break myself first. Her voice cracked on the edge, but held steady. She trimmed feathers away from the wound with sharp scissors, each snip a slice of silence. The owl stared at her, unblinking, as if weighing her soul. Maya Hart said, I know, I don't deserve your trust yet. Evan Cole leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, torn between worry and belief. Rain tapped the roof like an impatient hand. The antiseptic stung sharp in the air, mixing with pine resin and damp wood. Maya Hart said, I need you to hold, just hold. She stitched with careful hands, each knot tightening a bond between them. The owl flinched once but stayed still under her touch. Evan Cole handed her fresh gauze, silent for once. She thought of Jake Hart saying, redemption isn't free, and felt tears blur her stitches. She blinked them back. Maya Hart said, I lost one before, I want again. Evan Cole said, you talk like you owe the world. She whispered, I do. The lantern guttered, throwing shadows across the walls like wings struggling to lift. Outside, a branch scraped the window like nails. She tied the last stitch and let out a breath that shook free of her control. The owl blinked once. Slower, calmer. Exhaustion pressed into her shoulders, but Maya heart cradled the owl as if it were her own heartbeat. Evan Cole said, "You'll tear yourself apart doing this," she whispered. "Then I'll know I tried." The outpost walls groaned in the wind, and the air smelled of blood and wet feathers. The owl shifted closer, talon grazing her palm in faint trust. She remembered Jake Hart's voice, softer now. "Promises keep us alive." The room seemed to steady with those words. Evan Cole said, "If he makes it, it's because of you." She shook her head, "Because he chose to fight." The lantern light caught her face, carving every line of grit and grief. She rocked gently, murmuring, "Rest now, Hunter." The owl's eyes closed at last, and the silence that followed was louder than the storm had been. Dawn bruised the horizon, gray and reluctant, and Maya Hart said, "We move now, before the trail dries." She slid the owl into a lined carrier, its breath shallow but steady. Evan Cole said, "Roads are washed out. Rangers closed the south bridge." Her jaw tightened. "We'll cut through the ridge trail." The wind whistled through cracked window panes, carrying the scent of pine and mud. The owl stirred, beak clicking faintly. Maya Hart said, "He's colder again." She wrapped a second thermal pad, hands steady though her shoulders trembled. Evan Cole muttered, "Storm's not over. You're running him into another one." She shook her head. "Every hour counts." The sound of a truck engine rumbled outside, unfamiliar, heavy with authority. Evan Cole whispered, "Forest Service." Her heart stuttered, remembering past fines, paperwork, cages. Maya Hart said, "If they take him, he won't live." She pulled the carrier strap tight, eyes burning with resolve. Boots splashed through mud as Maya Hart pushed up the ridge path, the owl's carrier tight across her chest. Evan Cole said, "Trails washed, you'll break your ankle." She answered, "Then carry me too." The forest groaned under storm's weight, branches dripping like broken clocks. A crow shrieked above, startled into flight. Maya Hart said, "He's weakening again," her breath short with climb and fear. Evan Cole leaned into the slope, mud streaking his jeans. He muttered, "You always choose impossible roads." She pressed forward, because the others end in cages. The owl hissed faintly inside, a sound both fragile and furious. Thunder boomed distantly, echoing like footsteps. Evan Cole said, "We could wait, regroup." She stopped, eyes hard. Wait means die. Her boots slipped, caught on roots, but she surged again. The ridge loomed ahead, dark, rising like a wall that did not want them. Halfway up, the storm returned with a growl. Sheets of rain slamming bark and stone. Maya Hart said, "We shelter or drown." She spotted a fractured overhang, shadow like a jagged mouth. Inside, the air stank of wet moss and rot. Evan Cole dropped the pack, breath ragged. "He won't survive exposure," he warned. She pulled the carrier open, checked the owl's eye. Still fire there, faint but fierce. Maya Hart whispered, "Stay with me, Featherheart." The rain hammered louder, turning gullies into streams. She dug into her pack, pulling IV fluids and tape. Evan Cole's brows rose. "You smuggled gear from the clinic?" She met his gaze, voice flat. "I take what saves lives." He shook his head but handed her a line. Lightning flickered, casting their shadows huge on stone. Maya Hart said, "This is his fight, but I'll hold the line with him." The IV dripped steady, each drop a fragile promise. Maya Hart whispered, "Take it, breathe it." The owl's chest rose in rhythm with storm's tempo. Evan Cole said, "If anyone finds us out here, you'll lose your license." Her eyes hardened. "What's paper worth against a life?" He sighed, rain dripping from his hair, silence heavy with reluctant respect. A branch cracked outside, weight heavy, too deliberate. Maya Hart froze, listening. Evan Cole mouthed, "Bear Ji Chowan." She clutched the carrier, heart wild. The scraping sound moved closer, then stopped. The owl hissed low, a primal warning. Maya Hart whispered, We can't move yet. Another crack, then the rain swallowed the noise. Evan Cole exhaled slow. Nature's reminding us whose ground we stand on. Maya nodded. Then we stand anyway. The owl blinked, and for the first time, trust flickered there. Hours later, the storm eased, leaving the forest bruised and steaming. Maya Hart said, "We move now before the trail is gone." Evan Cole said, "You'll break yourself before we reach town." She lifted the carrier anyway, shoulders screaming. The owl shifted, stronger than before, and her lips trembled with relief. She whispered, "You're still here." The ridge path glistened, slick as glass. She set one boot forward, then another, refusing the ache in her bones. Evan Cole followed, muttering curses under his breath. He said, "One day your heart will kill you." She answered, "Better mine than his." The valley opened below, drenched in mist, a patchwork of shadow and gold where the sun broke through. For a heartbeat, it felt like hope. Then her radio crackled, a voice cold as stone. "Unregistered wildlife transport. Identify yourselves." Evan Cole swore, "They've found us." The radio hissed again, a clipped voice repeating orders, and Maya Hart froze, carrier pressed tight to her chest. Evan Cole said, "If they catch us here, it's over." She whispered, "Not if we keep moving." They cut through ferns until a fallen sign caught her eye. Wildlife Rehabilitation Site, closed by order. Her breath still. The owl shifted inside, feathers brushing fabric. Maya Hart said, "This wasn't an accident, Evan. Someone knew they'd come this way." His jaw clenched. "Illegal traps, closures, it's politics, Maya.I." She crouched by the sign, fingers tracing bullet holes in wood. The owl's eye glinted in the half-light, sharp, watchful. She remembered Jake Hart whispering once, "When truth cuts, it leaves scars deeper than wounds." Her stomach sank, the puzzle snapping together. Someone had laid the snare not as chance but as warning. Maya Hart said, "He wasn't the first." They sheltered near a ridge stump, and Evan Cole said, "You think someone planted it?" She nodded. "The bait, the closure, it's deliberate." His shoulders sagged. "Then we're tangled in more than rescue." The owl hissed faintly, as though agreeing. Maya Hart said, "He's evidence, not just a life." Her fingers shook, not from cold, but from the weight of memory. Years ago, Jake Hart had tried to expose a ring selling raptors, and paid with his career and his life. She pressed the thought down like a bruise. Evan Cole said, "If this ties back to them, we can't protect him out here." She whispered, "I swore to Jake I'd never turn away again." The forest seemed to close in tighter, branches knitting like bars. The owl shifted weakly, yet his eyes burned sharp as truth itself. Maya Hart said, "Then we finish what he started." Back on the trail, boots splashed mud as voices carried faintly behind them, sharper than rain. Evan Cole said, "Rangers aren't alone. I hear others." Maya Hart whispered, "Not rangers, poachers." A twig snapped too clean, too close. She pressed against a trunk, owl's breath warm against her chest. The carrier rattled faintly as the bird stirred, a soft hiss. A beam of flashlight cut through mist, passing inches from her boots. Her heart pounded in her throat, each beat loud as thunder. Evan Cole mouthed, "Don't move." The men's voices were harsh, joking, talking about losing another one in the storm. Maya Hart closed her eyes, Jake's words echoing, "Silence is survival." The voices faded, boots crunching away. She opened her eyes, trembling, and whispered, "He's not their trophy." Evan Cole nodded, face pale. The owl blinked, and for a moment it seemed to understand. They slipped down a ravine, mud slick underfoot, until Maya Hart stumbled on a cage buried in brush. Its bars were bent, feathers stuck to rust. She whispered, "God, there were others." Evan Cole's voice hardened. "This isn't rescue, it's cover-up." She opened the door and found a band tag, scratched but legible. The numbers seared her memory, the same code Jake had scribbled in his final notes. She reeled back, bile rising. Maya Hart said, "Jake was tracking them, and they silenced him. The owl shifted inside the carrier, as if restless with truth revealed. Evan Cole touched her shoulder, steadying. Then carrying him out isn't just saving a life, it's carrying proof. She nodded, fists tight around the tag. The rain eased, leaving the forest hushed, listening. Maya Hart said, "They won't bury this again." They climbed out of the ravine, the forest heavier than before, the owl's breath steadier, fueled by defiance. Maya Hart said, "This isn't just his rescue, it's Jake's too." Evan Cole met her eyes, shadows underlined by fatigue. "If we're caught, they'll crush both truths." She lifted the carrier higher, spine rigid. "Then we don't get caught." Thunder rolled faint in distance, a reminder the storm was never far. The owl blinked slowly, eyes sharp, unafraid now. She whispered, "We fight together." Evan Cole gave a short, ragged laugh. "You're insane." She answered, "Maybe." The valley ahead glimmered with faint gold, where the storm broke. The path wound downward, treacherous and long, yet alive with possibility. Maya Hart said, "Every scar carries a name. This one won't be forgotten." The owl flexed a weak wing, and the world seemed to pause on that fragile defiance. The valley opened into a scar of clear-cut earth, mud deep with tire tracks and oil stains. Maya Hart said, "This is where they worked him over." The owl shifted weakly inside the carrier, breath a rasp. Evan Cole scanned the horizon, jaw hard. "We can't cross open ground. They'll see us." She answered, "We don't have another path." A diesel engine roared to life beyond the ridge, men's laughter carrying sharp on the wind. Her pulse slammed in her throat. Maya Hart whispered, "They're still here." Evan Cole grabbed her arm, but she shook him off. "If I run, they win twice." The owl's eye caught dawn light, unblinking, fierce despite wounds. She muttered, "We fight on your terms." The valley smelled of gasoline and wet bog, a battlefield carved in silence. Evan Cole said, "Then God help us both." Voices rose closer, rough and laughing, boots crunching gravel. Maya Hart ducked behind a toppled log, clutching the carrier to her chest. The owl hissed faintly, feathers bristling. Evan Cole crouched beside her, whispered, "We can't outfight them." She answered, "We outlast them." A flashlight swept past, beam carving sharp lines in mist. The men spoke of another shipment, and buyers waiting. Her gut turned cold. She whispered, "They're trafficking them alive." Evan's face hardened, rage simmering under control. "If they see us, it's both our graves." She steadied the owl, whispering, "You're not theirs." The men's steps moved uphill, fading toward the trucks. For a fragile second, the valley fell silent again. Maya Hart said, "We go now before they circle back." Her knees shook as she stood, but she kept moving. They slipped from cover, boots sinking in sludge, hearts hammering. The owl stirred, a weak beat of wings rattling cloth. Maya Hart whispered, "That's it, fight with me." Evan Cole muttered, storms breaking again, as black clouds split above. Rain sheeted down, washing their tracks but blinding their path. Thunder cracked so close it shook her ribs. She stumbled, nearly dropping the carrier, but caught herself, teeth clenched. Evan Cole grabbed her elbow, shouted over wind, "We won't make it across before they see us." She spat rain, answered, "We don't stop now." The owl hissed sharply, startling her into stillness. An omen. Then headlights burst through the mist ahead, a truck barreling down the slope, engine screaming. Evan Cole shouted, "Down!" as mud sprayed high in the air. They dove behind a stump as the truck thundered past, mud splattering their faces. The owl cried sharply, a sound that cut through the storm. Maya Hart pressed the carrier close, whispering, "Stay with me." Evan Cole wiped mud from his eyes, breath ragged. "They're circling. More trucks will come." Her chest heaved with fury and fear. "Then we move faster." She pulled a flare from her pack, struck it alive with sparks. The red glow lit her face like fire, casting shadows of wings across the mud. Evan Cole's eyes widened. "You'll draw them to us." She answered, "No, he'll draw them away." The flare hissed in her hand, smoke thick and choking. The owl blinked at the glow, calm against her heartbeat's chaos. Maya Hart whispered, "Trust me now." She ran into open ground, flare burning, painting the storm red. Shouts rose behind her, men turning toward the light. Evan Cole shouted, "Maya, no!" But she didn't stop. Mud clung like chains to her boots, rain lashing her face. She clutched the carrier tight, heart thundering. The owl stirred, wings beating against cloth in rhythm with her pulse. A spotlight swung, blinding white cutting into her red fire. Bullets cracked the air, mud spurting at her heels. She didn't falter. Maya Hart shouted, "You won't take him!" Her voice tore raw, swallowed by thunder. She reached the ridge's edge, flare sputtering low. Below stretched the river, swollen, raging, wide. Evan Cole's voice echoed faint, "Don't." But she already knew the choice. Maya Hart whispered, "For Jake, for you," and leapt. The river swallowed her whole, icy jaws crushing the air from her chest. Maya Hart clutched the carrier high, the owl's cry piercing water and storm. She kicked against the current, lungs burning. Evan Cole shouted from the ridge, voice ripped by thunder, "Fight, Maya!" She broke surface, gasped a breath that tasted of mud and rain, and dragged herself toward a log spinning past. The carrier banged against her ribs, heavy, but alive. She whispered, "Hold on, I've got you." The water filled her mouth. The owl's eye gleamed through mesh, unyielding. Every muscle screamed rebellion, but she kicked again, refusing to let go. Evan Cole's silhouette ran along the bank, searching for a path. The world narrowed to water, breath, and the fragile life she carried. Maya Hart gasped, "We don't end here," and forced herself onward. The current hurled her against rocks, pain bright in her ribs, but she held the carrier above flood. She snarled through clenched teeth, "Not letting you go." The owl beat weakly, wings brushing mesh. Evan Cole sprinted ahead, then vanished behind trees. Her boots tangled in weeds, dragging her under. Darkness surged, pressing her lungs. She thought of Jake Hart, his last words like fire, "Promise me you won't freeze again." She kicked free, clawing back to light, coughing river from her throat. A rope arced through rain. Evan's voice roared, "Grab it!" She lunged, caught the line with numb fingers, dragged carrier close to chest. Evan pulled with brute strength, mud sliding under his boots. Maya gasped, "Don't drop me now," voice raw. The bank rose closer, hope as jagged as the rocks beneath. Hands raw, she clawed onto the bank, mud swallowing knees. The carrier thudded beside her, water dripping from mesh. The owl blinked, chest rising shallow but steady. Maya Hart sobbed once, sharp, then laughed brokenly. "You're still here." Evan Cole collapsed beside her, chest heaving. "You're insane," he said, voice shaking. She answered, "Maybe, but he's alive." The rain softened to drizzle, sky pale with reluctant dawn. The valley behind them echoed with distant engines, still searching. Evan Cole said, "We can't stay." She gathered the carrier, rising on trembling legs. "Then we move." Her body screamed in protest, soaked clothes heavy as chains. Yet the owl's faint hiss steadied her heartbeat. She whispered, "Not done yet, Featherheart." The path uphill beckoned, each step a knife. But each step meant survival. They trudged through pine shadows, feet dragging, air sharp with moss. The owl stirred inside, stronger now, talon pressing against claw. Maya Hart whispered, "You're fighting with me." Evan Cole said, "We'll need shelter and food." She nodded, though her bones rattled with fatigue. The forest felt changed, no longer hostile, but watchful. A hawk cried overhead, vanishing into sunlight. Maya Hart said softly, "Jake, we kept it alive." Evan glanced at her, puzzled, but said nothing. She traced the band tag in her pocket, metal biting her palm. Each step hurt, but she welcomed pain. It proved she still stood. Evan Cole said, "We'll need allies to expose this." She answered, "Then we'll find them." The owl gave a low hiss, and she smiled. One step at a time. By midday, they reached a ridge where forest opened into sky. Maya Hart set the carrier down gently, breath shuddering. She knelt, whispered, "You made it through." The owl blinked, stronger now, wings twitching beneath cloth. Evan Cole stood back, arms crossed, silent awe on his face. Maya brushed a hand along mesh, voice thick, "I promised Jake I'd keep fighting. This is the start, not the end." The wind tugged her hair, drying salt tears on her cheeks. The owl lifted its head, eyes catching sunlight, fierce and alive. She whispered, "We'll carry this truth forward." Evan Cole said, "And they'll never silence it again." She nodded, rising, hefting the carrier once more. The valley spread wide beneath, golden light breaking over storm's ruin. Maya Hart whispered, "You're not forgotten. None of you are." The ridge overlooked a valley of gold, sunlight peeling away storm's scars. Maya Hart set the owl carrier down, hands trembling, not with fear but release. Evan Cole said softly, "You've carried him farther than anyone could." She whispered, "He carried me too." The owl stirred, wings testing strength against mesh, feathers catching light like fire through glass. The silence around them was vast, broken only by wind threading pine branches. Maya touched the carrier gently, her voice fragile yet strong. "Not every battle is won with survival, but this one can be." Evan Cole's eyes softened, a rare smile breaking lines of fatigue. "You gave him a chance," he said. She nodded, tears streaking her mud-stained face. The moment was more than rescue. It was promise kept, scar mended, truth remembered. The carrier door clicked open, a sound sharp and final. Maya Hart whispered, "It's yours now, not mine." The owl hesitated, talons gripping metal floor, eyes scanning the horizon. Evan Cole murmured, "He may not fly far yet." She answered, "Far enough to remember freedom." The bird leaned forward, feathers rising in the breeze. For a moment, time seemed to still, storm, loss, and fear dissolving into air. Maya Hart thought of Jake Hart, his voice echoing faint, "Release keeps the promise alive." Her chest swelled with pain, and relief braided as one. She whispered, "Fly, Feather Heart." The owl stepped out, unsteady but resolute, wings stretching wide against the light. Evan Cole held his breath, reverence in his eyes. The world narrowed to that single motion, the reclaiming of sky. The owl leapt into air, wings ragged but alive, slicing through sunlight. Maya Hart gasped, joy and ache colliding in her chest. Evan Cole whispered, "He's flying." Rain still clung to leaves, scattering prisms as his wings brushed past. The bird climbed unevenly, faltering once, then steadied. Maya said, "Every beat is a victory." The owl's cry echoed over the valley, fierce and defiant, drowning out memory of chains and cages. Her throat closed around tears she didn't fight. She raised her hand, palm open to the sky, as though her promise traveled with him. Evan Cole stood silent, gaze fixed upward, the weight of what they'd uncovered pressing heavy, yet noble. For that heartbeat, sky belonged to all of them. The owl circled once above them, a halo of wings against morning light. Maya Hart whispered, "Goodbye," though it felt like greeting too. Evan Cole said, "We still have the tag, the proof." She nodded, eyes never leaving the sky. "And his flight will speak louder than any file." The owl's silhouette drifted toward distant ridges, fading into mist and gold. Maya's shoulders sank, exhaustion washing through, yet her spirit felt lighter. She whispered, "Jake, I kept the promise." Evan glanced at her, understanding dawning, the words stayed unspoken. The wind cooled their faces, carrying scent of pine and wet earth. For the first time, silence did not feel heavy. It felt whole. The last trace of wings vanished into the bright horizon, and Maya Hart stood silent, heart breaking and mending at once. Evan Cole said quietly, "He's free." She whispered, "So am I." She picked up the empty carrier, weight gone yet meaning heavier than before. They turned from the ridge, steps slow, steady, each one toward an unfinished fight beyond the forest. Maya touched the band tag in her pocket, cool metal pressing her palm, a promise of battles yet to come. She whispered, "Not forgotten." The wind rose, carrying the faintest echo of wings, as though the owl left part of himself behind. Evan Cole said, "Let's finish what they started." She nodded, her voice steady now. "We will." Together they walked into light, their shadows stretching long behind, carrying story and truth forward.